When my subscribers requested me to review this episode, Cousin John from We Bear Bears, they reminded me that it's Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Everyone knows it's Bendy all over again. And while there may be similarities here and there, sorry, but at the same time, regardless if this is part of Cartoon Crisis 3, I don't consider this as one of the worst episodes of We Bear Bears. Granted, it's not a good episode, but for me personally, I would rather watch this episode over the Fosters episode. The story begins with Grizz, Panda, and Iceball heading to Chloe's place for a family reunion. And this is where we get the introduction of Cousin John, despite the fact that he appeared in Christmas parties and made a cameo in The Perfect Tree. In all honesty, knowing full well that this character is the main problem of the entire episode, I somewhat agree, but not completely. In all honesty, if you ever remembered the episode reviews that I had with this show, especially when it comes to We Bear Bears Month, I stated that the human characters aren't the most intelligent people. Granted, they're better than how Frankie and Mr. Hellman were portrayed, and everyone knows it's Bendy, but for me personally, Chloe's family, who's supposed to be the most loyal and most respectful family in the entire planet, at least from this show, is resort to lower IQs. That's something that really makes this episode honestly difficult to take itself seriously or either enjoy it. Mainly the fact that Cousin John instantly gets away with it because his family's IQ is low. Just like every other character in this show. Mainly the humans. In all honesty, if I ever wanted to do a comparison of John and Bendy, I would probably say that John is less terrible compared to Bendy, because as far as I'm concerned, what Bendy did was mainly causing trouble, while John is only doing this because he loves doing pranks. Now, I understand that the pranks may be questionable, like how John manages to find Panda's photos or manage to hack into Chloe and Panda's phones. But half of these pranks are harmless. Granted, I can understand the bears are in stress and fear due to the pranks, but in all honesty, half of these pranks are really harmless. But then again, the other half of what John did, mainly the pranks, is pretty much the reason onto why people can't stand this episode. And in all honesty, whenever I completely look at those pranks, it's a lot more difficult to understand how John is portraying like this instead of how he was originally portrayed in Christmas parties, where he was actually respectful. Because if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, if we had a fourth Christmas episode where Chloe is again the major focus, since that she was also in Christmas parties and The Perfect Tree, it wouldn't be a Christmas celebration at all, which is saying something considering that the Bears accidentally ruined Christmas, which for me personally, if Joe did something like that, he would probably be hated while the Bears wouldn't be. Believe me when I say this, I know full well that Chloe's family isn't that dumbed down to be fooled with that kind of stunt. But let's get into the most infamous scene in this episode. When the Bears and Chloe notice that there's an air horn attached to grandmother's cane, which indicates that John is pulling a prank on her, Grizz immediately took the cane to break it in half, but this only resulted to Grandma to nearly fall on the ground, only for John to save her. Granted, Grizz shouldn't took the cane to break it in half, but at the same time, if Grandma actually took a hold of that cane while sounding the air horn, I'm pretty sure she will probably go deaf or have her ears be damaged. In all honesty, I know full well that it's not a good idea to instantly have an air horn attached to a cane that elderlies need to stand still. And the fact that Chloe's family is still against Grizz, Panda, Icebell, and Chloe for it just doesn't really make any sense. It just doesn't. Like, I understand that this is supposed to be a family reunion, that everyone should get along, but hasn't gotten to a point where there should have been an actual meeting between the Bells, Chloe, and John in order to sort this whole thing out. Even if this is the only scene in the episode when everyone notices Bendy, there were like almost 10. It's just a very bad scene, so knowing full well that even if Cousin John saved her grandmother from falling down, it doesn't change the fact that he would have damaged her eardrums. So after that incident, Chloe and the Bells decide to take matters into their own hands by setting up a prank outside in order to teach John a lesson. Now, compared to what Blue and the other characters did in Everyone Knows It's Bendy, they're different compared to this, considering that in that episode they're trying to get Bendy into trouble, while in this episode it's mainly just pranking John. And in all honesty, if it had anything to do with what John did, I can guarantee you it would backfire on Chloe and the Bells. So in all honesty, this is literally okay for what it is, but considering what ends up happening in the end, it leaves a lot to be desired. During the prank, John slipped on one of the feathers on the steps. He went onto the trampoline, which launches him to the fence, causing him to get knocked out. There were remorse involving Chloe and the Bells since it wasn't part of the prank, but as it turns out, John was faking it. Apparently, he knew that he was getting pranked, so he decided to pretty much intentionally slip on the feather on the steps while getting knocked out. I mean, if that was actually the case, then he pretty much had a lot of guts to go through so many pranks when the tables are turned on him. And what he said about testing the Bells and Chloe when it comes to pranking, you do realize that they were never in this whole thing. And for me personally, the fact that Chloe is willing to accept it, it honestly makes me question onto why that her teaming up with Chloe is a good idea. In fact, I really side with Panda at the end. Like, after everything that the Bells went through, even if some of the pranks were harmless, it doesn't really change the fact that he put the Bells and Chloe into stress and mostly into panic mode, knowing full well that they just wanted to enjoy the family reunion. And in all honesty, the fact that this episode is being wasted when it comes to Chloe's family reunion is really saying a lot. Granted, I'm not expecting to know all of the characters, but considering I was one of those fans who actually enjoyed the background characters in the show at one time, especially doing fanfiction of, it's yet another missed opportunity, but at this point I've addressed that multiple times in my other We Bear Bears reviews. But overall, I still don't consider this as one of the worst episodes of We Bear Bears. Because for me personally, I've seen worse episodes, and this episode is better than Everyone Knows It's Bendy, especially the ending. I may criticize it, but at the same time, I would rather take that over the Foster's ending. And not only that Bendy is a worse character than John, Num Num is also worse, because as far as I'm concerned, it's difficult to take Num Num's character seriously regardless if his life is a lot more different compared to the other characters in this show. So there's one thing to close off in this review is that there were a couple of bad We Bear Bears episodes that I'm planning to review as part of Cartoon Crisis 3, but keep in mind, it's gonna be difficult to look into those episodes knowing forward I have a variety of bad episodes from other shows. Believe me when I say this, regardless if there are limitations when it comes to doing these videos, I'm still saving the best for later. and the We Bear Bears episodes isn't one of them. I'm giving this episode a 4 out of 10.